Hi friends, this is Rick Cobb with the Resonance Initiative, and we're an organization that really believes that song is powerful. It's powerful to build bridges, and it's powerful to enhance the life stories of individuals and communities. And a particular program of the Resonance Initiative is Song Shape, which is a chorus for those who are dealing with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia in the early to middle stage. It's for a course for them and their care partners. And we've been on an incredible journey, and I'm so grateful for all the new friends that I've met, people that have given amazing input and support, and I'm grateful today that we have the opportunity to speak with Allegra Hein. You're really going to enjoy hearing from her. She actually is a musical therapist, and she'll talk more about that. And I believe that I was introduced to Allegra through our friends with the Great American Songbook. So just grateful for her friendship and her support. So I have a question that I love to ask my musician friends. Yeah. And that question is, was there a particular moment, or when was the moment you knew you decided to dedicate your life to music?
Well, as you said, my name is Allegra, and so that might clue you into the fact that both of my parents are actually professional musicians.
Yep.
So, in the beginning, I'd like to say I didn't necessarily have a choice. Music was my path for life. However, I always say it's a blessing and curse to have musicians who are parents. But I am very thankful that I had an incredible upbringing where that was the norm for me.
Yeah.
And didn't feel out of the ordinary that I would go to symphonies often, and that some of my peers had never been to symphonies and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So my mom specifically is a pianist, and so I'm a pianist, and I got my bachelor's degree in piano performance, and at the end of that time, I started thinking about grad school, and just kind of magically, I happened to hear about music therapy. I'd never heard of it before, even being in the professional music world for so long. And I decided to explore what that was a little bit more. When I was home for the summer, I shadowed some music therapists in Indianapolis, and I was like, oh, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. It's music, and it's helping people, and I feel like that is what I've always wanted to do. Is just perfectly made for me and my interests, and I've always wanted to help people, and I know what music means to me, and having been a musician for a couple decades now, but had no idea what really music could do for people until I started to study music therapy. So that's kind of the trajectory of how I got to be here. But I have my master's in piano performance, but I'm also now a board certified music therapist. So music.
Music. We love it.
Yep.
We love it. So take me back. So when you were at school, what were just some of those things that kind of drew you? Were there specifics that drew you to music therapy?
Yeah.
Difference from being a performer.
Right. I think that specifically has been something that I am continuing to learn, because it's much different than being a performer. Even though there are some settings where if I'm leading a group session, which we can talk more about, it could look like a performance. It sometimes feels like a performance because we need to capture the attention of all of the group members and yada yada. But the difference is so really clinical and scientific once you learn more about music therapy. And so I think performance really became something for myself. So that's like that's my outlet, if you will, and playing piano will always be a part of my life for that reason. But as I said, I mean, genuinely, I just really love helping people, and so it felt like, well, my strengths are music, and so this is the perfect way to pair them. And once I really got into it in school, when I started learning about music therapy, just all of the different things that you can do with music, I continued to be kind of blown away, especially because I thought I knew all there was to know about music, you know. And there's this whole other world that is part of the music world, but different. So yeah.
Well, share with us, Allegra, what a music therapist does. Why is music therapy so vital in our society?
So music therapy in general is the use of music to target what we call these non-musical goals. So I think oftentimes people think music therapy, something that makes me feel good. Yes, of course. When I'm listening to music, I feel good. And when I'm playing music, I feel good. And so I think there are common misconceptions about in music therapy that we teach people music or we perform music for them. But actually, we're using music to address these non-musical goals. So that means cognitive goals, social goals, communication goals. All of those things have nothing to do with music, but in music therapy, we target them through music. And the reason why it's so effective is because of music's impact on the brain. I think it's so exciting to hear all of the recent research studies and things that have been in the news about the impact of music on the brain, and that it stimulates both hemispheres, and there isn't anything else that's able to do that. So that's why it can be such an effective tool, a therapeutic tool, specifically when you have someone with some type of cognitive impairment. So at the basic level, that's what music therapy is. But then, of course, beyond that, there's like so much that you can do in music therapy because there's so much music out there. And so if that's what we're using as our therapeutic tool, then we ourselves have to be really great musicians. But also, first and foremost, for whatever population we're working with, whoever the client is, we use their preferential music. So I really love Justin Timberlake. Shout out to Justin Timberlake. You might not love Justin Timberlake.
No, he's okay. He's all right. He's all right.
And the other clients I
my
work
boys
with,
love him.
Okay, woohoo, great. So, perfect example of the fact that we all have different musical preferences, and that's great because there are so many different musical genres and artists to choose from. And so as a music therapist, that's first and foremost. We have to choose preferential music. And then beyond that, we have an assessment process, just like other therapies. And we come up with a treatment plan. And what's different about that treatment plan than the other therapies is just that we're using music to address those needs. So if someone is, let's say that they have had a stroke and they're recovering from a stroke and their speech has been impacted, that's something where we can take their preferential music and we can sing together. And it is amazing to see that someone who has difficulty with spoken speech can sing, forming the words. And our job as a music therapist is to identify that, work on that, enhance that skill so that eventually they can translate that back into spoken speech. Because our objective is not what is happening within the music therapy session, it's always what we can do to improve what's happening outside the music therapy session. So is that a good baseline?
Yeah, no, that's a great baseline. So are there specific needs or a certain population that you work with? And maybe even share a little bit about justice.
Yeah. Right, so music therapists in general work with, I like to say all populations, because really everybody could benefit from music therapy, but specifically right now they work with older adults, they work in hospital settings, in hospice, traumatic brain injury, addiction. There's a lot of media attention recently about veterans and PTSD and how music therapy can be impactful for that. So obviously what music therapy is in all of those different settings differs greatly, and how the music therapist targets the goals and objectives of that individual, but it can be effective in all of those different settings. So for me personally, right now I work with older adults, so I work for the Justice Company. It's a senior living company. They own 4 senior living communities in Indianapolis, and so I'm the regional music therapist for the company. So I do a little bit of everything. So in addition to that, where I work currently, I do, which is not necessarily music therapy, but I do lead a choir, which we started at all of our properties this year. So that's very exciting. And I also do a music appreciation class, which is just an educational opportunity. I still play piano as much as I can, so I do some lecture recitals and just a little bit of everything. So